Hi, my name is Chris, the editor of the Living Post. Today, I am going to be talking about self-love, self-esteem, and self-worth. Now, there's not too much difference between self-worth and a self-esteem, but I think I'm going to kind of separate them a little bit, only because I think there's some value in that. A lot of people are into the self-love thing lately, and there's some danger to that, some warning I want to convey to people when they grab onto this self-love and just buy it hook, line, and sinker. Self-love, to me, I may be wrong, and maybe some people might use it in a different way or believe it in a different way, but it's very much like selfishness. Yeah, I'll explain why. Self-love is loving yourself. And a lot of times first. That's the premise that I've heard when I hear a lot of people talk about self-love. Think of yourself first, make sure you're first, make sure that you're taking care of yourself, and make sure that you're okay first. A lot of first in there. And when you put yourself above others and don't think of others that important, that's selfishness. Okay? Now, some people might look at self-love as just something that you're just making sure that you're putting, some of your needs in there as a priority, which is important, true. But one thing I've learned about relationships is that putting others ahead of yourself is very important. And mostly because of the fact that there's a natural tendency and a natural self-preservation that goes on in most every person's life that causes us to have some type of self-love or self-gratification or making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Now, true, I'm going to probably get into that in other videos. What's the difference between self-love and what's the dangers and what's some healthy ways to go about that you are healthy mentally and physically and emotionally and everything like that. But right now I just was focusing on the differences between these different things and what's, in my eyes, the best way to look at yourself in terms of what's going to bring the most stability in your life is, and self-love is not going to be it. I can for sure say that, because self-love, what that tends towards is you end up putting yourself above everybody else, your needs, your wants, your desires, your time, energy, everything, and puts everybody second. Now that may sound okay and actually sounds healthy. The problem is that other people recognize that, and then if they put themselves ahead of you and then put themselves first, what it tends towards happening is that you have relationships that are basically, what can you do for me and what can I do for you? And if it doesn't work out, I want nothing to do with you, because I'm putting myself first. And if you're not going to do anything for me, then forget you. This is my basement. It's quite empty right now because our son is moved out. But when he was here, he was using it. He was part of the relationship, part of the family, and now he's gone. And it's pretty much empty now. Now, if we want to be full of self-love, he would have been gone a long time ago, because there was not a lot of back and forth. It's like any child you have needs love and care and needs to be poured into. And our son was no different. There was a lot of things we had to forgive, we had to work through and had to help him with. But if we were self-love, that would have not been the case. We would have been not being able to love him. We wouldn't have been able to love him much at all, because he wasn't able to give a lot, and that was very hard for him. And so this room would have been empty a long time ago. And that's the same thing with our lives. You'll be lonely, not full of much love, not very much care, not very much relationships, if you're all about self-love. I'm just being truthful because I've seen it over and over again. And now, if you are saying that self-love is just part of your life, it might work out. What some people do is they lean on their self-esteem and are focused on their self-esteem. Not many people can actually do that if you look at it the way I look at it. And it is, self-esteem has a lot to do with what you can do. You know, if I'm able to go to school and do well, or do well in my job, or do well in relationships and be a good father or good husband, it builds your self-esteem. You know, when somebody compliments you, or when somebody says, oh, you're doing a good job. What if somebody doesn't? What if I don't do a good job? What if I make a mistake? What if I fail? Then what helps my self-esteem? What, maybe do something different. Well, what if it doesn't work out then? You can go downhill fast. And that's why self-esteem is kind of a rocky road. Self-esteem is one of those areas where it's good when you can have self-esteem and do well at your job, or do well at what you're doing at the time, or have great relationships. But when you don't, then your self-esteem is kind of like, where is it? You just start wondering, do I have any self-esteem at all? And I think it's why some people are kind of depressed in our society, because we're so much built on what you do and what you say and what relationship you have, what job, what school, what's your schooling, what ability you have. Oh, you're such a good father, you're such a good this or that. What if you're not good at anything, or you don't feel like you're good at anything? Gosh, then you don't feel special, important, or even worth anything. That's kind of why I get to the last part of what you can value yourself in, and that is in self-worth. Now, self-worth isn't based on what you do. It's not based on the fact that you're loving yourself. It's just because you are special, because you are. That seems kind of like, oh, what's that? What it means is that you are a human being with abilities, with talents, even though you may not think so. You are built with a personality, you are built with experiences, and you are built by God. I've shared this in other videos in the past. You can listen to them, but I just want to reiterate how important it is to build yourself and build your life on self-worth, and not on self-esteem, not on self-love, because that will never change, and doesn't have to change. Sometimes it changes because of your feelings, and sometimes it can change because of outer circumstances, but a lot of times that's connected to a feeling. But it doesn't have to change what we really believe. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you start believing the lies, or start believing the feelings that are coming off from people or from yourself and your fears or concerns. But ultimately, if you really believe that you're special and important just to who you are, then you can move forward. And you can move forward in finding people that will support you and be with you. And hopefully, I think, realize why yourself and your worth is what it is. Why you're worth anything. It's because you're built and made by God. Some people aren't religious, and that's something they choose, and that's fine. That's why I share these videos. It's because it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. It's still true that self-worth is the main thing. It's the most important, because we are all special. And we all should strive towards believing that we are special. And we're not worth it because of what we do, or because we love ourselves, or anybody loves us at all. It's because of the fact that we know we are worth love. And that we are special in so many different ways, that we can find people that'll support us and love us and care for us for who we are. We can love them for who they are. That's when things work out. That's when you can really be at peace with yourself and others, and really be a whole human being. Not self-love. not self-esteem alone. It's going to be self-worth. And that's something you'll have to come to grips with. But just think about what I've said. Just think about what I said. And maybe I'm thinking it's going to ring true. And I'll talk about other stuff in more detail about self-love and self-esteem in other videos. But remember, if you have self-worth, I think you have everything. It's where you can go. That's where your foundation can start. I mean, I believe if you have God, it can go beyond self-worth, but that's for your own choice. And this is Chris from the Living Post.